Hey BookTube, it's Sarah and welcome back to my channel, The Book Bag. Today I am talking about The Duke and I by Julia Quinn, which is the first in the Bridgerton series. This is the follow-up to my previous video where I talked about like the first 100 or so pages and did my hair in these curls. We're back now, it's the next day, I got to sleep in the curls, and we're going to see how they turned out while I discuss what I thought of the rest of this book. So first of all, Daphne punches like 4 different people in this book. Maybe it's 3, I don't know, but she definitely like is throwing hands, which was really fun, and I kind of wish they had kept that in the adaptation for Netflix because she's just going around punching people and like can really punch them and knocks them out. It's very enjoyable. So that was fun. I think that might be potentially the only positive thing I have to say about this book. It was very mediocre. It was it was just focused on like Simon and Daphne's story in a way that the Netflix series wasn't. We didn't really get any side stories or side characters, or rather like all the side characters were there to support Simon and Daphne's story, which wasn't too bad, but then you miss all the fun intrigue of like Eloise's quest to figure out who Lady Whistledown was. There's also no queen in the book. Like there's a part in the Netflix movie, or not movie, there's a part in the Netflix show where they're being presented to the queen so she can like judge them or whatever. That's not in the book at all. So that was kind of disappointing too. All the men in the book have like serious anger management issues. Oh boy, these are real curly. They're always just like ready to fight each other, which was really annoying, and I was like, oh my god, get a hold of yourselves. Just like calm down. They're always like, I'm gonna punch you for looking at my sister or hanging around her. Really super like toxic masculinity, and we're not here for it. What else did I think of this book? I have all my little sticky notes so I know what I thought of it, because there was a lot. Oh yeah, there's this part like 114 pages in where he's like, the Duke is like, he realized he had never seen her in the daylight before, and he's like, yeah, no, you just met her last night. Like, of course you haven't. I thought that was a really weird line. I was like, obviously, you just met her. And then 120 pages in, there's a line that says, Daphne decided then and there that she'd be a fool if she didn't fall in love with him. Like, what? No, your whole plan is that you're not supposed to fall in love so that you can find a good match and that he doesn't have to worry about people. Wait, what? You just made this plan to, like, fake date, and now she's like, of course, I must fall in love with him. Yeah. Ooh, that's, boing. That's very fun. There were like a few moments where Simon and Daphne had like some pretty fun banter. Like there's this one part where he's like, you'll soon learn that I am always right, which is like a pretty gross thing to say. But then later on in the same page, she like repeats that back to him, kind of being like, oh, come on, like get over yourself, which was pretty fun. So there were some good moments and like some good chemistry where they, you know, kind of like were better for each other. But there are parts where they talk about Simon's stutter and how it affects him as an adult, and how he like feels like out of control and like powerless when his stutter acts up, which was pretty interesting. And I thought really like gave him a bit of like depth of character that they didn't really have in the series as much. What else? Oh yeah, during one of the steamy scenes, he's like, I'll be your blanket, which, what? That's not sexy. If someone said that to me, I would just laugh. I don't understand. Okay, whatever, fine. But there's also like this weird theme of Simon being like, I'm just destined to be terrible to her. Like there's a line that says, he treated her abominably. It seemed he was fated to do that time and again. Maybe just like, take responsibility for your actions. There's a thought. There's a whole thing about like him owning her and she's his wife and she's like his possession, which, while maybe historically accurate, really took away from my enjoyment of the relationship. When he's like angry and he's like, "You're my wife, you have to do what I say, I own you." And I was like, ew, ick. Like, that's a real gross thing to say to someone else. And I don't think, I don't know. For historical fiction, especially for like a historical romance, I don't think you need to be 100% historically accurate. Especially with stuff like that, where it makes me feel really icky about this romance that I'm supposed to be invested in. And then there is the worst part of the book, which they kept in the Netflix series, which is really gross. This is a trigger warning for rape and sexual assault, and like gaslighting, and I'll put a little like time code here that you can skip to if you don't want to listen to that. But there's a part where the Duke comes home after they've had a fight. He's been drinking. He's like basically blackout drunk, and Daphne's like taking care of him. They fall asleep and they wake up and he's been having some naughty dreams, and so she like takes advantage of him. There's a line in the text where she's like, she knows she shouldn't be doing this, but she takes advantage of him and then rapes him so that she can have a child, even though he like does not want to have children, and that's like the whole reason for their argument and everything. So that was extremely disturbing, and they kept that in the Netflix adaptation, which I did not like. And then after that, he is obviously very like rightly upset and is like, "How could you do this to me? Like, you knew I didn't want this and you took advantage of me." And she's like, "Well, you wanted it too. Like, I couldn't have had sex with you if you didn't want this too." And like gaslights him, which is horrifying. And then afterwards, like oh boy, that's got a little cloud of curls here. Anyways, and then she like gaslights him, he leaves, and then when they like reunite later, they're both like, "Oh, maybe I misremembered it, maybe like it wasn't entirely her fault, maybe like, you know, I was kind of involved too." And I was like, no. And then he's like, "Okay, yeah, I'll have a baby with you." And she gets her way after raping her husband. What? And then they just like never mention it again. They're like, "Well, we all make mistakes, moving on." Which was just, I thought, like incredibly inappropriate and harmful and like very traumatic. So really did not enjoy that at all. That was definitely by far the worst part of the book. The rest of it was like pretty mediocre, but yeah, that was very disturbing to read. Okay, we're gonna, I think, take a quick break here and go and see what I can do with this so I look less like a poodle, and we'll be back. We'll see what happens. Okay, so we're back, and I combed it a little bit, which was making it kind of frizzy, so I stopped doing that immediately, and then just like pinned up the top portion to make it kind of more like a little, I don't know, it's like a little cloud of curls, a little cascade, rather than the like, just like giant chunks of curls that was happening before. So for my final thoughts on The Duke and I did end up giving it, I think, a 1-star review on Goodreads, mostly because of the rape scene. I think without that, I would have given it like maybe 2.5 stars, because it was kind of fun. It wasn't anything super special. I didn't feel, it was pretty like run-of-the-mill stuff. And like honestly, the like steamy scenes weren't even that steamy. Most of the time they had like weird little lines that just made me laugh. And all the men in here were kind of trash, and I really didn't feel that many of them were good love interests at all. I was just kind of like, ugh, gross men. There was some fun banter between the main characters. I kind of wanted more details about the era that they were in, but it was just kind of like, oh, you have the general idea of the framework, and then it was a lot of like dialogue and character interaction, which was okay, but once again, nothing super special. I actually read Dangerous Alliance by Julia Quinn. I'm not sure how to say her first name. I enjoyed that one a lot more than Bridgerton. I think it's a YA novel, but it's like a young lady in the Victorian era who is fallen in love with Jane Austen's novels and tries to like use like Pride and Prejudice and Emma and all that to kind of guide her own life as she's trying to make a match because her older sister's husband has been abusive. So it's down to her to like secure the family estate. So she's trying to find a match, and she goes on all these like hilarious outings with people and ends up enlisting the help of like her childhood best friend who's very swoon-worthy. And well, I mean, you can see where that's going, right? But I enjoyed that one a lot more than Bridgerton. And while it is like young adult and there's no like steamy scenes, the romance was much more enjoyable. The characters were not all complete dicks. And there's a lot better chemistry too. So if you're looking for a historical romance with those kind of Victorian or Regency era, I know those are different times entirely, but when you don't know anything about history like me, it's the same difference. Please don't come at me, historical fans. But I would definitely recommend reading Dangerous Alliance over Bridgerton any day. So thank you for tuning in and seeing my curls and my review, and I will hopefully see you on my next video. Thanks so much for watching.